right, good evening. My name is Damian Pantoja, the Community Engagement Specialist for the Office of Civil Rights here in Austin, Texas. I do believe it's us, someone else, and then we're done, so I'll be brief. I'm also going to allow, at this moment, everyone to introduce themselves as well.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here today, and thank you for hanging out. I guess we're 2 more down until the happy hour. So, my name is Amy Atchley. I am with Austin Energy, Electric Vehicles, and Emerging Technologies. I am the lead manager for our EV equity development program.
Hi, everyone. I'm Khotan Shahbazi Harman. Very happy to be here with you. You all are so patient to be sitting here with us. I am the acting officer for telecommunications and regulatory affairs at the City of Austin, and we work a lot in the digital equity space.
Hello, my name is Philip Tyndall. I'm the Metropolitan Planning Branch Manager in the Transportation Planning and Programming Division at TxDOT here in Austin. And I work with the group and oversee the group that provides oversight and support of all the 23 Texas metropolitan planning organizations in Texas.
Good evening. I'm Michael Bryant. I'm the Director of the Civil Rights Division for the Texas Department of Transportation. We handle all things related to diversity, inclusion, equity, all the things that aren't necessarily talked about in Texas politics now. So happy to be here.
Nice, thank you. The first question is, what is digital equity and why is it important?
So I think that falls to me, Damien. Just a very quick overview. I have lots of notes. I can speak for 3 hours if you like. But digital equity basically is equal access and equal opportunity to information and technologies. And for work, it is job search, applications, tech at home, and connection is social media, email, phone. Education is digital apps, Zoom classes, online learning. Finance is online banking, credit cards. Health is appointments, telehealth. And transportation is smart mobility. Technology drives more transportation options and needs for equitable mobility for all travelers, regardless of their zip code or their income. So that in a nutshell it is, but then it has, there are certain pillars. There are 5 pillars to digital equity. The first one is infrastructure. Is a physical infrastructure in place? And availability of service. Is service available and is affordable, whether it's at a business or at a premise? Devices. What are the needed devices to connect? Wearables, phones, tablets, whatever you might have. And then also, are they appropriate for the people that they're intended? As you know, our parents, older adults, they need less buttons, larger font, more user interface that makes sense for them. Folks that may not speak English, they may need to have translation options. And then also digital skills training. So they have the devices. Now can everyone be trained on these devices to be able to use them? And what are the trainings that are needed to provide them to be continuously effective? And the last one that really is very challenging and very few people talk about is real-time IT support. So folks have devices, they're trained, they go to use it, they may not know how to use it. Is there someone, whether it's a call center, as a digital navigator, one-on-one counselor in person, who can actually support them on it? So that's basically in a nutshell digital equity.
Does anyone else have anything to add from their perspective?
I think she hit most of it. I think specifically from a TxDOT perspective, 2 areas that we are certainly concerned with are limited English proficiency, so making sure that, again, the languages are addressed, and also making sure websites and anything digital is available from a persons with disabilities and that there's accessibility on that standpoint. So we've gone through a major refresh of our website in the last couple of years, and one of the key components was making sure it was accessible for all people.
And I'm just going to add a bonus question to this. As a community engagement specialist for my department, how do you currently engage with your audiences and communicate to stakeholders?
Are you talking to me?
In general.
I think for us, it's an always. It's certainly as have come out of COVID, it's back to a lot of face-to-face communication, which means again, that we're making sure that we have translation services available. We have other tools available. We in civil rights at TxDOT, we're responsible for our ADA program. So when we meet with some of our groups that are specifically have people with disabilities, when we do our sort of standard accommodations requests, but also I think from our standpoint, we try to be a little more proactive perhaps than maybe the rest of the department. So we try to make sure that we've actually gone to get certain things printed in Braille. We have all the readers available. And I think we're still trying to get that level of proactiveness done throughout the agency, because there's so many meetings that TxDOT does. Certainly when you get to dealing with the MPOs, all of our districts have meetings, and making sure that all of those provide the same level is something that we're trying to get across the board.
Did you want to add something?
Probably added in.
Okay. So the next question is, what is digital equity investment and what is economic impact?
Sure, I can start. So of the 5 pillars that I mentioned, it's very interesting that they're being divided in different ways when it comes to investment. And so infrastructure has its own funding. I'm sure you've heard about BEAD funding, which is infrastructure funding coming down from the federal government. They're very focused on when it comes to broadband, where is fiber? Does it go to the premise? Does it go to the business? With the others, the digital equity investment on availability and affordability devices, digital skills training, and real-time IT support are falling under the Digital Equity Act, which is about $2.75 billion coming down for resources. Let me just tell you very quickly about a couple of things. So the BEAD Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program is part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and it invests to rebuild our water system, roads, transit, broadband systems, and grow our economy and create new jobs. So BEAD is planning on deploying, the federal government will deploy $42.45 billion to expand high-speed internet access, funding, planning, infrastructure development, deployment, adoption, and Texas will receive $3.2 billion. Is everyone here from Texas today? No, you are not. Most of us all? Okay, I'm sorry you're not from Texas. All right, so
Texas loves you anyway, as Lyle Levitt says.
That's right, but you can't. Thank you. So Texas received the lion's share of the funds. We got $3.2 billion, and the Texas voters approved another $1.5 billion in the fall of 2023 through the Proposition 8 for a total of 4.7. But before we celebrate, by conservative estimates, the infrastructure and connectivity challenge in Texas is anywhere north of $38 billion. So we're all in this business of trying to solve these major, big problems, complex problems. How do you solve a $38 billion problem with a little less than $5 billion? So those are some of the things that we're thinking about when it comes to equity. So when it comes to the impact, the economic impact, there's a lot of analysis being done. This is just the second year of the fund and it hasn't been deployed yet. But right now, for example, Moody's says that the GDP growth will be cumulative by 3.5%, resulting in additional $758 billion output by 2031. Economic Policy Institute says that the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act will support over 89,000 resilient jobs every year. So green jobs, resilient jobs, and of course, improving public infrastructure boosts productivity of businesses by reducing their costs. And this way, growing communities rely on safe roads, smart transit systems, well-functioning water and sewer systems, state-of-the-art schools. So we can see why infrastructure is so important and how it will lead to economic development. And of course, it enables efficient flow of information, facilitates e-commerce, and et cetera. Just a point of caution that infrastructure development works great at all times except when there is an economic downturn. So because infrastructure project takes so long, it isn't always an effective tool during recession, but that remains to be seen.
Thank you. And that's a great segue because the next question is, Why is it important for the utility to ensure equity in transportation and infrastructure development?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll take that since I'm representing the utility, and I am with the local public power here in Austin, Austin Energy. And so thank you for grounding that in the digital inclusion conversation, because there's a massive paradigm shift that's happening right now in technology, but also in transportation. And so my role really is to ensure that as these transitions are occurring, that people in communities are not left behind. Just to give you a little bit of history, I've been with Austin Energy now for about 7 years. I started out in a creative position in that it was grant-funded role for social and environmental justice. This was 7 years ago when these conversations were just beginning to get started. The role is now, full-fledged, full-time position, and we've been able to launch some groundbreaking projects and pilot programs that have been replicated throughout the country. The work that I'm doing, I'm essentially the City of Austin program is what Austin Energy is. We are essentially, for all intensive purposes, another city department, and we're working under city goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So through our climate equity plan, which launched in September of 21, we wanted to ensure that we are getting our city to net zero emissions by 2040. And so how that translates into transportation is that by 2040, we need to ensure that 40% of the vehicle miles traveled are electric to reach that 2040 goal by 2030. That's just right around the corner. And so we know in order to do that, we're going to have to reach the entire community. It's not just going to be this niche market. It's going to be with our public transit. And the City of Austin is working, and we're helping to transition all of our buses to electric. We have committed as a city to go electric. There will be no more buses that are purchased that are not electric, and that really touches everyone in the City of Austin. And then we do other programs to ensure that people are going electric, and that we're providing affordability to a brand new mode of transportation. It's a behavior shift, but there's affordability with electric fuel, and we're transitioning there with that. And so it's very important that we're working with equity within our community, and we're doing it not just by coming up with programs that we think are great or wonderful solutions that we think are helpful, but we're working with the community and the voices of the community. And I just want to point out one thing that's very unique in this. We're creating human-centered design programs, and the way that the climate equity plan was designed is that it wasn't just city experts, it wasn't industry experts coming to the table to design this program, but it was everyday people. We brought in regular citizens, we brought in vulnerable community members. The plan is in 13 different languages. We had community-based organization leaders and just, regular people chiming in and letting us know their pain points so that as we're designing, we are creating and working with the community. We're not coming into a community and doing something to the community. And this is super important in terms of creating a sense of belonging and showing that interest, and to help provide investment in the community by doing these programs with that human-centered design approach. And that is a city-wide approach that we're doing.
Well, thank you. Anyone else have anything to add? No? Great. All right, we're going to move on to some MPOs. So first, I'm going to give a little background and then the question. So MPOs have federal mandates and a key role in maximizing opportunities for people to participate in transportation, planning, and programming at the local level, regardless of socioeconomic status. How do MPOs reach out to various stakeholder groups, especially historically underserved populations, to ensure they have a voice in how federal transportation dollars are spent?
Thank you. MPOs are required by federal law to produce a public participation plan that guides how they conduct public outreach in development of their long-range plans and their short-range programs for associating funds with actual projects that are going to be moving towards actual construction. And those participation programs are designed to maximize the output to outreach to different communities in the area, regardless of socioeconomic level. And for example, when they produce a public participation plan, they're required to have a 45-day public comment period wherein they're actually soliciting input from the public on how the MPO should go about soliciting public participation. And when they develop a long-range transportation plan, they're required to implement creative mechanisms for ensuring people have the greatest opportunity to participate, including things like virtual public involvement and different kinds of online type solutions. When I was an MPO director about 16 years ago in Collier County, Florida, which is on the southwest corner of the state, one of the things we did to try to maximize our outreach to different communities, there was a fairly large Haitian Creole speaking population in the area, and we reached out to a Haitian church, and we did a presentation on our metropolitan transportation plan that was under development, and I stood and gave a presentation to the congregation. Of course, I didn't speak Haitian Creole, but the pastor translated for me, and I'm not absolutely sure how accurate the translation was, but the congregation did laugh and nod at the appropriate time. So that was helpful. But that's just an example of ways that MPOs can use different kinds of tools and methods to reach out to the public to ensure maximum participation.
Nice, thank you. And then what are some of the challenges and obstacles that MPOs face in their efforts to maximize public participation in the transportation planning process?
I think particularly in historically underserved communities, it's very difficult to convince people it's in their best interest to participate and actually lend their voice to the decision-making process for infrastructure development. So you have to find ways to reach out to people where they live and congregate, and not just schedule public meetings and put out notices in the paper and things like that. You have to find creative ways to go where people live and work and socialize so that you can meet them where they're most comfortable, and provide formats and ways of communication that would incentivize people to actually have a desire to participate, gives you an opportunity to actually explain the benefits, potential benefits of an infrastructure project, and also give the public an opportunity to explain their concerns and issues that might affect them and their families.
No, thank you for that. And I also would like to ask Austin Energy, City of Austin, and at the state level, civil rights, what challenges do you see when you're engaging with your communities to just deliver that messaging that you have?
You know, I think the biggest challenge is behavior shift, and that's across any income level or any community. It's just a big shift, and we're not really good with change. I completely agree with getting into the communities. We do a ton of work in the schools. The heart of a community is in the schools, and we are in the schools on a regular basis. In fact, yesterday we were at Houston Tillotson working with young youth that are interested in a future in energy and also interested in being a part of the shift in the change and climate protection. Our youth is very motivated. They understand that climate impact is going to be one of the greatest challenges of their generation. So we try to give people a platform. And it really is getting in there and letting people tell us. It's a lot of listening. It's a lot of listening and giving people a chance to voice, where they stand and what they need. And empowering people, empowering youth. And so we've seen a lot of success with that with our youth, but also programs with our affordable housing. We're working with the Housing Authority of the City of Austin to help them understand how to utilize bike share to change options for them, better education, transportation options, getting them to grocery stores, getting them just a better quality of life, and understanding that these city assets that are everywhere, that they are for them. Because a lot of times when our communities of color or our limited income community members see electric bike docking stations coming into town, it's a sign of gentrification. And so our job is to get in there, and we work with people in communities one-on-one, letting them know, no, this asset is for you, and we're going to give you an electric bike training session, bike safety training. We're going to get you a free helmet, a free membership to our City of Austin bike share, and then we're going to take you on an adventure tour to show you how to get to the HEB or how to get to the Social Security office. So it really is a lot of creativity, but it's building trust and going into these communities once and going in twice and going again and delivering on this promise so that you can build the trust to help with that shift.
Thank you.
I think for us, trust is the biggest issue. I think probably the biggest turnoff is for people to hear, hello, I'm from the local government and I'm here to help you. I mean, that's like the weirdest thing for people. We also, we are trying very hard, I don't know how successful we are at it, is to truly try to read the reality of the community correctly. And so we try to do that through data analysis, through our partnerships, through being in the community and trying to listen. It's very difficult to listen, and understanding that our very presence changes the dynamics of any group that we enter. To them, we are the government when we show up. So it's how to maintain a posture of humility and learning that is authentic. And that has been very challenging for us, of being able to be present, but also understanding and planning that the solutions comes from those closest to the problem. We don't show up to bring solutions, we show up to listen and hopefully connect the dots. We also work through networks and trusted resources within the community. There is the Digital Empowerment Community of Austin that we facilitate, and we also have the bounty of having a community technology commission that we work with, the staff at the city works with, and they are the bridge between the city and the community. So we're trying very hard to figure out, how do we understand what is actually happening, what is the reality of it, and then co-create solutions by trying to hold the space rather than come in with technicalities and solutions and plans and et cetera.
And I'd like to also mention that from my experience working with MPOs around the state, I've seen a lot of success in actually reaching out to schools for discussing potential infrastructure projects, because for one thing, it's a way of reaching out to people with limited English proficiency. A lot of times the parents don't speak English well, and the children do, because they're in school, and they go back and tell their parents what they heard and what was discussed. And in addition to that, young people have really kind of a unique perspective, and they're just as much affected by infrastructure decisions as adults. So we gain, as MPO and metropolitan planning professionals, we gain a lot from interaction with younger people.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, like, the issues that we're talking about with MPOs really affect every organization, whether you're TxDOT or your local city government. It really is about the connection with the people. I think it's going to meetings, and if you're asking for public comment, it's actually receiving comment. One of the ways we've kind of described it as sort of complete engagement, which is that we're going to listen to you, but we're also going to respond to you and make sure there's an understanding of what we've told you. Doesn't mean that we're going to agree at the end of the day, but it means we've heard you, we've done it, and I think we've seen that here with the 35 project, with a lot of the events that the Austin District has held, which is receiving comment, and maybe not, we can't do 100% of what you've requested or thought that we could do, but perhaps there's 15% of that we can do here, we can cut off a little here, add a little here, and so I think it's adding some flexibility. And I think one of the things when you asked about challenges from a statewide perspective is, we've probably had, I guess there's 4 Title VI complaints that we've had in the last 5 or 6 years, starting with Corpus Christi and the Harbor Bridge project, 45 in Houston, 1 in El Paso, and 1 currently on 35 here in Austin. One of the things that we've seen is, because of social media, technology, people are able to connect from different communities. And so we see a lot of people asking for some of the same things. Some of the same groups are involved in the complaints, and so you see some of the same issues. But what we would tell people is, some of that stuff is great that you're communicating on that level. And from a civil rights perspective, we're kind of caught in the middle a little bit, because we are, one, state employees working for TxDOT, but we are also, in my opinion, advocates for the people that we serve. And so we've got to kind of balance that line. And whether it's business or individuals, whatever, we have to kind of be on both sides. And so hopefully we've got a rational approach to things. But when we get those sort of, this is what they did in Corpus, or this is what they did in Houston, and that should apply to Austin, isn't necessarily true. There will be similarities, but everything really comes down to that individual community, the people that are there, the needs of that community, and what that community wants when they see an infrastructure project coming, and what impact it's going to have, and how it can be remediated in some way, or ultimately to the point where it's beneficial for the community and for the public entity that's building.
And even with, I was just wanting to add, even with areas like procurement, TxDOT has a policy regarding MPOs where they're required to communicate with the Civil Rights Division to ensure that there are adequate opportunities for disadvantaged business enterprises to compete for consultant contracts. So that's another area that we use policy to try to maximize the advantages of infrastructure planning economically and different parts of the communities.
No, thank you for that. And for our last few 2 minutes, I would like to ask all of you to share how can the audience and those that would like to partner reach out to you. How can they connect with all of you and your teams?
I think, well, it's easy to connect with us. Go to texdot.gov. Look for my terrible face on our website because I hate my picture. But since most people I believe are in Austin, but wherever you are in Texas, we've got 25 districts. And so whether Austin's your home, or you've got family in Houston or in the Panhandle or El Paso or down in Pharr or Laredo, there is a TxDOT office near you. We've got the 25 districts. Within each district, there are maintenance offices and there are area offices. Many of the divisions that are all based here in Austin have staff across the state that you can talk to. And certainly, our mission statement is about connecting you with Texas. But for us in civil rights, we kind of focus on our vision statement, which is really about mobility, economic inclusion, and improving quality of life. And so those are the things, whether you want to call it equity or whatever, I don't really care because it's about helping people. Some people ask, well, why does TxDOT have a civil rights office? And, it really goes back to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It's the 60th anniversary, so it's even more important. There are current challenges to programs that are supporting minority and women-owned businesses. There are programs that are trying to address that, and including with workforce development, going to schools and trying to show people what those opportunities are. Because if we don't have more people doing the work, we're not going to have those businesses in the future. So,
And even MPOs have very accessible websites where you can find a lot of information about their planning activities and new projects that are on the horizon and things like that. And you can also learn about their public outreach efforts going on their websites. Campo, the local MPO, has a very good program, and you can find a lot of information on their website.
Thank you.
And so it's very easy to get hold of City of Austin. I'm also on LinkedIn. I think our names are in the program. Happy to connect with anyone who's working on closing the digital divide, working on direct investment, infrastructure in the communities. If you're interested in issues of broadband, especially in Texas, the Texas Broadband Development Office was recently created, and they have a wealth of information on there online as well. Happy to connect.
Yeah, and I think collaboration is key, and I'm happy to connect with you as well. LinkedIn is a great place to find me, Amy Atchley on LinkedIn, as well as ev.austinenergy.com, and you can look at a little bit of the programs that we're doing that we didn't really get into today, but I will say this is an infrastructure conference. There's a lot of money that's coming down the pike right now around infrastructure, and it's exciting to see a lot of the CFI money that's coming and the EPA. We're working with our schools to go electric with their buses here in Austin, but we are also seeing the Justice 40 neighborhoods being included and actually prioritized on this infrastructure. So there's a lot to learn about that, but do a little Google search if you want to get caught up with that. And also just hit me up, and I'm happy to have a chat with you about all these things.
All righty. Thank you all for y'all's time today.
Thank you.
We're good.
Thank you.